Chinese Foreign Ministry is now holding a press conference on President Xi Jinping's visit to Japan.
The Osaka Summit from 27th to 29th of June to give you more information. We have invited the leading principals of the related ministries. We have with us today the Sherpa of the Chinese side to G20 affairs, Vice Foreign Minister Zhang, Vice Minister of Commerce, Mr. Wang Shouwen, and Vice Ministers from Ministry of Finance and the Vice Governor of the People's Bank of China. And now I will first give the floor to Vice Assistant Foreign Minister Zhang. Friends from the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The G20 Osaka Summit will be held from the 28th to 29th of June in Japan. At the invitation of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend the summit. This is an important event of head of state diplomacy and multilateral economic diplomacy. It will be the seventh time for President Xi to attend or chair G20 Summit. It fully shows the strong emphasis that China puts on G20 cooperation and global economic governance. Now, unilateralism and protectionism have brought severe disruptions to international economic order, global value chain, industrial chain and supply chain have been undermined. World economy is facing more risks and uncertainty. The market confidence has been dampened. G20 is the premium forum for international economic cooperation. As the world's second biggest economy, China has, over the years, played its role in promoting world economic growth, improving global governance, and meeting risks and challenges. China has played its constructive role as a responsible major country. Under current circumstances, the host country, Japan, and international community have high expectation on President Xi's participation in the Osaka Summit. President Xi is going to have a full schedule. During his stay in Osaka, he will attend the plenary discussions of the summit and discussions on global economy and trade, digital economy, inclusive and sustainable development, infrastructure, climate change, energy, and environment. He will expound on his views and proposals about the global economy with a view to exploring the root causes and solutions for the existing problems and identifying the overall direction of the global economy. President Xi will also attend an informal BRICS leaders meeting, an informal leaders meeting of China, Russia, and India, a small-scale meeting between Chinese and African leaders. He and his counterparts will have in-depth discussions on deepening cooperation among emerging market and developing countries and implementing UN 2030 agenda. Their discussions will give new impetus to the practical cooperation of the relevant parties. To the demand of leaders of multiple countries, President Xi will have a number of bilateral meetings dedicated to deepening cooperation with the countries concerned and promoting the bilateral relations. We hope that through the aforementioned functions, China can make its contribution to the success of the G20 Osaka Summit. China will work with others to firmly uphold multilateralism. The international community has fully recognized the repercussions of unilateralism, protectionism, and bullying practices. Together, we have sent this strong message for multilateralism and against unilateralism. G20 should categorically uphold multilateralism, international order underpinned by international law, international peace and international justice and fairness. This way, G20 will make its contribution to the fostering of a fitting and sound environment for international economy, trade, scientific and technological cooperation. This will help bring global economy back to track. This is a duty of the G20. This is also what the international community expects of us. We stand ready to work with others to steer G20 cooperation to the right direction. 10 years ago, G20 played an irreplaceable role in international efforts to address the global financial crisis. Now it's important for G20 to uphold partnership, enhance policy coordination, and maintain unity and cooperation. China supports a multilateral trading system with no discrimination and supports necessary reform of WTO. We believe on these major issues, consensus shall be reached through consultation, and a gradual and constructive approach shall be adopted to address differences. For problems for which solutions cannot be found at the moment, there should be no imposition of will on others. China will take a responsible attitude in participating in the relevant discussions, while at the same time firmly uphold our fundamental interests and legitimate rights. We stand ready to work with others in joining discussions on digital economy, sustainable development, high-quality infrastructure, climate change, energy, environment, and other major issues. These are important for the future of global economy and global economic governance. China will encourage all parties to keep in mind the overall picture, act in a responsible and constructive attitude, rise above the short-term interests, work together to meet these challenges, pursue common development, and build a community with a shared future for mankind. China will encourage all parties to step up efforts in implementing the Paris Agreement on climate change, UN 2030 agenda. China believes that G20 can and should keep to a development-oriented approach, accommodate concerns of developing countries, respect the right of developing countries to development, and create a favorable environment for development of developing countries and international cooperation. As for more details, we will brief the media in various means and forms. This is my opening remarks. Thank you. Thank you, Assistant Minister Zhang and Vice Minister of Finance.
Friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Now let me give you a briefing about the preparations of the G20 Osaka Summit in the financial sector. This year, the external environment is becoming more complicated. However, G20 cooperation on finance is on the whole stable and has produced fruitful results. In terms of topics, G20 finance cooperation not only focuses on short-term economic situation and risks, but also long-term and medium-term global challenges, including quality infrastructure investment, global imbalance, population aging, and universal health coverage. In terms of process, in just half a year, the G20 has held 2 finance ministers and central bank governors meetings, 3 deputies meetings, and 10 working group meetings. From June the 8th to the 9th, the last G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting before the G20 summit was successfully held in Fukuoka, Japan. The meeting issued a joint communique and concluded a number of outcome documents, making full preparations for the Osaka Summit. Now, let me give you some background about the outcomes of the G20 process in the financial and economic fields. First, maintaining policy coordination and upholding global economic and financial stability. The June meeting believed that the global economy is on the whole stable, and it is expected to rebound in the latter half of this year and next year. The G20 members have reaffirmed that they will employ all available policy tools to boost market confidence through dialogue and actions to realize strong, sustainable balance and inclusive growth of the world economy. At the same time, G20 continues to focus on downward economic risks and stresses the importance of making joint preparations on the policy side. G20 members share the view that trade frictions and geopolitical tensions are the most prominent risks confronting the global economy. Many countries are appealing for stronger cooperation and coordination to resolve the trade frictions at an early date. And they also support extensive and ambitious reform of the WTO. Second, focusing on development and formulating principles on high-quality infrastructure investment. In 2016, the G20 Hangzhou Summit, hosted by China for the first time, included quality infrastructure investment into the G20 agenda. This year, the Japanese presidency has preserved this important topic and agenda item. Through repeated discussions, the June meeting adopted the G20 principles for quality infrastructure investment, which provided a systemic summary on the views and consensus of G20 members concerning quality infrastructures. This outcome document is a continuation of the relevant common understanding recorded in the Hangzhou Summit communique and provided useful reference for cooperation among the parties to promote quality infrastructure investment. In keeping with important instructions of President Xi Jinping on high-quality development, the Chinese side has worked actively with other developing members in the formulation of the outcome document. Thanks to the efforts of all parties, the G20 principles on quality infrastructure investment have come up with 6 principles, including sustainable development, economic efficiency in view of life cycle cost, environment, society, governance, and resilience against natural disasters and other risks. And the development aspect of high-quality infrastructure has been placed on top of the agenda and become one of the main themes of the document, reflecting the policy appeals and positions of developing countries. The ideas championed by China, including extensive consultation, joint efforts, and shared benefits and connectivity, have been highly recognized by all parties and also incorporated into the outcome document. On the whole, this outcome document is focused on development and has set out the overarching goal and principles for quality infrastructure investment. Third, improving global governance and promoting balanced and sustainable economic growth. Global imbalance is a traditional agenda item of the G20. Well, this year, the G20 Finance Cooperation has focused on coming up with some policy recommendations for addressing the imbalance issue while analyzing the root causes of this problem. I should say that despite the divergent views among the parties, G20 members have carried out candid and in-depth exchanges, and the summary document on global imbalance adopted at the June meeting has recorded some objective common understandings among the parties on a number of important issues. First, the global current account imbalance has narrowed, yet the stock position remains large. Second, the global imbalance structure has undergone major changes in the post-crisis period, which is now mainly focused on developed economies. Third, trade policies, in particular trade protectionist measures, are not helpful to addressing trade imbalance. The parties need to focus more on fiscal policy, structural reform, and flexible exchange rate policy in a way to address the problem of global imbalance. In addition, China has made important progress in reducing its external imbalance and made great contribution to improving global imbalance. China's contribution has been recognized and applauded by many countries. Fourth, focusing on medium and long-term challenges and promoting universal health coverage and addressing the problem of aging. In the G20 Hangzhou Summit in 2016, the G20 agenda for deepening structural reform was adopted for the first time, and ever since, structural reform has been a perpetual theme of the G20. This year, the Japanese presidency has put its focus on two structural issues, aging and universal health coverage. In terms of aging, although G20 members diverge in the level of aging, but they have all paid attention to making preparations for addressing the problem of aging society. The June meeting adopted the summary document on aging FWG. The document pointed out that in the coming decades, aging will become more aggregated in G20 members, and developed economies will, on the whole, enter the period of post-aging society. And many emerging economies will also face the pressure of aging. And this will create a series of challenges in terms of labor productivity, savings and investment, cross-border capital flow, fiscal sustainability, monetary policy, and the financial system. The G20 members need to take measures like inclusive labor market policy, reform of the pension system, enhancing the efficiency of public spending to address this problem, support intergenerational equity, and ensure public finance sustainability. Universal health coverage, or UHC, is an important component of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Developing countries face the most prominent challenge in terms of the lack of financing for UHC. The June meeting adopted the G20 shared understanding on the importance of UHC financing in developing countries. It stressed the importance of enhancing collaboration between fiscal and health authorities, mobilize domestic and international resources, and establish an efficient and equitable medical and health system to promote financing in UHC. In this regard, the Osaka Summit, during the Osaka Summit, there will also be a joint session on financial and health ministries to promote cooperation between the two authorities. The Ministry of Finance will continue to make preparations for the Osaka Summit in collaboration with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you. I'll now give the floor to Vice Minister Wang Shouwen of Commerce.
Friends from the press, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to have this opportunity to brief you about economy and trade during G20 Summit. We know that the global economy is facing severe challenges, including rising unilateralism and protectionism. These have escalated trade tensions worldwide and slowed down the growth of trade and investment. These have brought much uncertainty to global economic growth. At this critical juncture, the international community hopes that the G20 Osaka Summit will once again demonstrate the unity and ability to act of the G20. G20 members are expected to have candid and deep-going and constructive dialogue to develop new thinking and new proposals for world economy. From 8th to 9th of June, the G20 Trade Ministers meeting was held in Japan. With joint efforts of the G20 members, the meeting issued a joint statement reflecting some consensus, such as developing a sound environment for trade and investment, promoting WTO reform, enhancing interactions between trade and digital economy, and boosting sustainable and inclusive growth. China hopes that the various parties will build on the consensus reached at the trade ministers and build even more consensus at the Osaka Summit in the following areas. First, constructive efforts for necessary reform of WTO. The multilateral trading system has gone a long way toward promoting trade and economic growth in this world. Since its accession to WTO, China has firmly supported the multilateral trading system, categorically opposed protectionism, and we have worked with others to build an open world economy. Now, unilateralism and protectionism have caused severe disruptions to multilateral trading system. China therefore supports necessary reform of the WTO to enhance its authority and effectiveness. We hope the Osaka Summit will build up the consensus on supporting multilateral trading system and opposing unilateralism and protectionism. Second, building a trade and investment policy environment that is free and open. International trade and investment are important engines for growth, innovation, and development. Now, the world is facing a more challenging environment in trade and investment. WTO figures show that in the second quarter of 2019, global trade vibrancy index was 96.3, the lowest level since March 2010. WTO also adjusted downward its expectation for annual trade growth from 3.7% to 2.6%, the lowest level in recent 3 years. According to the 2019 World Investment Report of a UN organization, in 2018, worldwide foreign direct investment dropped to $1.3 trillion, the record low since the global financial crisis. In China's view, some individual country has been insisting on unilateralism, protectionism, abusing trade remedial measures, and national security exceptionalism. That country has slapped tariff on its trading partners, causing major threat to global trade, investment, and economic growth. G20 represents the major economies of the world. It has the obligation to take collective actions to support multilateralism and free trade. China is ready to work with other G20 members to stick to an open policy of trade and build free, fair, open, non-discriminatory, transparent, predictable, and stable trade and investment environment for enterprises and investors of all countries. Third, enhancing trade and investment cooperation for inclusive and sustainable growth. This year, G20 trade ministers and digital economy ministers have had a joint session to discuss how to build up interconnectivity between the two areas. The participants promised that they will enhance cooperation on e-commerce, digital infrastructure, and capacity building. We hope the G20 Osaka Summit will build up the momentum to enable the world to catch up with the fourth industrial revolution, explore new growth momentum and development paths, promote the deepening integration between trade, investment, and digital economy. We believe with thorough discussions, the Osaka Summit will generate positive outcomes and make economic globalization more open, inclusive, balanced, and work for everyone. Thank you. Vice Governor of the People's Bank of China.
Friends from the press, I also want to give you some background about the preparation for the G20 Osaka Summit from the perspective of central banks. First, macroeconomic policy coordination and financial stability. At present, global economy, the uncertainty in the global economy and finance is on the rise. There is a visible sign of the shift of monetary policy of major developed economies. At the same time, in the post-crisis period, many countries do not have adequate policy space, and the space for addressing notable economic downturn is also limited. Against this background, it is all the more important for G20 to further strengthen policy coordination, and this will also become an important topic to be discussed at the Osaka Summit. China looks to the G20 members to preserve the previously reached common understanding and send out a clear and a positive signal to the world. Uphold multilateralism and further improve macroeconomic policy coordination and make comprehensive use of all available policy tools, including fiscal and monetary policies and structural reform, and jointly uphold global financial stability and promote strong, sustainable, balanced, and inclusive growth of the world economy. Second, reform of the international financial architecture. In 2016, the G20 reactivated the Working Group on International Financial Architecture with a focus on advancing reform of the IMF, strengthening the global financial safety net, and improving the international monetary system. The previous G20 summit pledged to complete the 10th General Quota Review of the IMF no later than October this year to raise the share of dynamic economies to a level consistent with their position in the world economy. China all along supports a robust, quota-based and adequately resourced IMF. We hope the Osaka Summit will continue to recognize the IMF's role at the center of the global financial safety net, reaffirm the commitment of completing the 5th General Quota Review and a quota reform, and call on the IMF to expedite the relevant work. And during the G20 summit this year, there will also be discussion on development financing, and China will continue to engage in constructive dialogue with all parties to promote the relevant process. A third, reform of the financial sector. After the global financial crisis, the G20 members launched and implemented the reform of the financial sector, which has effectively enhanced the soundness of the global financial system. Well, of course, during the implementation, there are also some new challenges. We believe it is important for the parties to agree on strengthening regulatory cooperation to jointly deal with these challenges. While at the same time, the G20 is also focusing its attention on the application of new technologies in the financial sector, including digital currency and encrypted asset. China is doing pretty well in these areas, and we hope that the Osaka Summit will not only recognize the positive role played by these new technologies and encourage innovation, but also take note of the relevant risks. In particular, the risks of encrypted assets in consumer and investor protection and anti-money laundering. We will continue to strengthen coordination and collaboration with all parties in this field. The People's Bank of China will soon take over the chair of the Financial Action Task Force on behalf of the Chinese side. We will work with all the other members to conduct a strategic review of the Financial Action Task Force, take stock of the challenges we face, and come up with a clear response strategy. We hope the Osaka Summit will continue to recognize the important role played by the Financial Action Task Force in anti-money laundering and counter financing of terrorism, and work together with all parties to promote AML and the CFT cooperation. Fourth, green finance. Developing green finance is conducive to high-quality development. China is at the forefront of the world countries in terms of green finance development. This year, using green finance tools has been included into the outcome document G20 Principles on Quality Infrastructure Investment, which has preserved the previous common understanding of G20 on green development. China hopes that the Osaka Summit will continue to recognize the important role of green finance in driving global growth, and will continue to work with all parties to strengthen cooperation and promote global and economic sustainable development with green finance. Fifth, financial inclusion. Financial inclusion can enhance the accessibility and the convenience of financial services and promote inclusive economic growth. In 2010, the G20 leaders agreed to set up a global partnership on financial inclusion, or GPFI. Today, GPFI has already become the most important platform for promoting financial inclusion cooperation. This year, G20 has launched the reform of GPFI, and the People's Bank of China and the Central Bank of Brazil will take the lead in this process. We have completed our work and set out the direction for G20 financial inclusion agenda. China will continue to share experience with all parties to promote sustainable global growth. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that was the press conference on President Xi Jinping's visit to Japan to attend the 14th G20 Summit. And four vice ministers briefed the media on President Xi Jinping's schedule in Japan. He will attend four forums at the G20 Summit, and also Vice Finance Minister and also Deputy Governor of the Central Bank and Vice Commerce Minister all briefed the media about the preparations they made for the G20 Summit, and also clarified China's stance on global trade and economic development. And for more insight into President Xi's attendance at the G20 Summit, we're now joined in the studio by Ms. Su Xiaohui, the Deputy Director of International and Strategic Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. Welcome to Global Watch, Ms. Su. First of all, about the date. President Xi Jinping is going to be in Japan from 27th to the 29th, but the G20 actually will happen from the 28th. So what will happen at the 27th? Is he going to meet with a Japanese national leader, or is he going to meet with President Donald Trump?
Well, as you may notice that every time President Xi's visit to the other countries or President Xi's attendance to kind of multilateral platforms will draw the attention from the international community. Everybody is watching how China's leader will spend his time and with the leaders, with the forums, and how China will attach importance to specific issues. And for the President Xi's visit this time, for one part, I believe that everybody is trying to watch the sideline meetings, especially China and U.S. leaders' potential meetings to talk about some tough and sensitive issues. Well, as you may notice that in the press conference we have just watched, there was a signal that China would like to try to communicate with the other country about China's understanding about the current developments in the world, about how to make the trade in a discrimination way. And it is a strong signal that China will stay by the red lines we have already set and try to make the other countries to understand that trade should be a mutual benefit.
Right. And talking about bilateral relations at the sidelines of the meetings, usually at this summit, at the G20 summit, actually the meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump will be the focus of the G20 summit in Osaka. What can we expect? Are we going to see a deal?
Well, I have to say that first of all, the meeting itself will be a positive signal, not only to China-US relationship, but also to the international community, to the world economy. Well, the two countries are quite important in the world economy as the number one economy and number two economies, two important players. And currently, the trade friction between the two countries caused a lot of reaction and concern from the neighboring countries and also from the the world. So it is a time for both leaders to sit down. And according to previous experiences, that when the two leaders have a chance to meet, they will talk about some big issues, talk about the strategy of the two countries, and also talk about how the two countries should get along with each other. And it is quite an important opportunity for both countries to reach agreement. But I'm kind of pessimistic about the potential trade deal. It is an issue that will be talked by the working levels.
Why are you so pessimistic?
It is the two leaders will talk about the principles, some big issues, so that the trade deal and specific issues should be dealt with by the working levels. So it is, the two sides will have a chance to
but they will make a direction of how things will go.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So they set the tone and try to provide a platform or a foundation for the working levels to try to work on.
Are you optimistic about the tone that they're going to set?
Well, it depends. Well, China has been quite clear that we have set the right lines. We would like to work with the United States, but China has the principles, and the United States should try to respect China's principles. So this is the foundation for the two sides to carry out communication.
How do you see G20 Summit in Osaka this time? Because Wang Shouwen, the Vice Commerce Minister, just said that it could present opportunities to reverse the current global trend, which I think he meant nationalism, protectionism, etc. Do you think it will be a good opportunity to do that? Because the global leaders were trying to do that at last year's G20 summit in Argentina, but apparently the outcomes are not quite so optimistic.
Well, I will say that the G20 is an important platform for the related countries, for the developed countries as well as the emerging economies, to try to talk about how to promote the world economy. And since the year 2008, G20 has been playing a larger role in the world economy and also played a leading role in some tough issues like financial risk and other difficulties and challenges. So currently, I believe that most of the countries in the G20 would like to work on trade facilitation and to promote free trade, to provide more opportunities for the world, to try to fix the current developments of the world economy. So it is a strong signal from the related countries, and it will be a hot topic for the countries to talk on.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Ms. Su Xiaohui, Deputy Director of the International and Strategic Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. Thank you very much for your insight. You're now watching The World Today on CGTN. We'll be right back after this.